President Donald Trump has presented Ukraine with a bold ultimatum, a deadline of November 27th, to respond to a proposed plan aimed at bringing an end to the ongoing war with Russia. This date, which coincides with Thanksgiving Day in the United States, is a clear signal of the urgency Trump feels regarding the situation. The plan, detailed by Washington, proposes the cession of key eastern regions, Donetsk and Luhansk, to Russia, regions that have been the heart of the ongoing conflict. In Trump's view, if Ukraine resists, they would ultimately lose these territories anyway, making the American proposal a pragmatic solution to a war that has dragged on for nearly 4 years. In a press conference, Russian President Vladimir Putin expressed his support for the plan, calling it a potential foundation for a final peace settlement. Putin's endorsement was significant, as it marked his first confirmation that Moscow had indeed received a copy of the proposal from the United States. The Russian leader was firm in his belief that the continued conflict would only result in further territorial losses for Ukraine, referencing the recent Russian military actions in the key city of Kupiansk. In his words, if Kyiv does not want to discuss President Trump's proposal and refuses to do so, then both they and the European warmongers must understand that the events that occurred in Kupiansk will inevitably repeat themselves on other key areas of the front line. This chilling warning served to underline the high stakes of the decision that lay ahead for Ukraine. For Ukraine, the situation is fraught with difficult choices. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky swiftly rejected the plan, stating that it was far too favorable to Moscow. "I will never betray it. The national interest of Ukraine must be considered," Zelensky said, emphasizing his commitment to Ukraine's sovereignty. Despite the pressure, Zelensky insisted that Ukraine would not back down from its principles and that he would work diligently to present alternatives and arguments to the United States. "There will be constructive efforts to find solutions with our main partner," he added, highlighting Ukraine's willingness to continue diplomatic negotiations, but stressing that any agreement must respect Ukrainian territorial integrity. For Zelensky, this was not just a political matter, but a moral one. He made it clear that he would not allow his country to be pushed into a deal that would harm its national dignity. But as Zelensky grapples with his rejection of Trump's peace plan, the Ukrainian president also faces the grim reality of what might be at stake. In a speech, he acknowledged the intense pressure Ukraine was under, describing it as one of the most difficult moments in our history. The prospect of choosing between national dignity and vital international support is a painful dilemma for Zelensky. Ukraine may face a very difficult choice, either the loss of dignity or the risk of losing a key partner, either the complex 28 points or an extremely harsh winter, the harshest, with further risks, Zelensky warned. His words reflect the harshness of the winter to come and the difficult path Ukraine might have to take if it continues to reject foreign intervention and pressure. In Washington, the White House remains committed to the plan. Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, spoke to the media about the ongoing discussions, though she refrained from going into specifics. The president put out a statement tomorrow that the mayor-elect will be coming to the Oval Office, and so our teams are arranging those details. "I won't get into the president's thinking on it. I think you'll all hear from him directly," she said. Leavitt also made a comment on the broader political climate, emphasizing the symbolism of political figures from diverse backgrounds meeting with the president. The deadline for Ukraine's response is approaching quickly, and the stakes could not be higher. On one hand, President Trump's plan offers a path toward peace, potentially ending the bloodshed in the region. On the other hand, for Ukraine, any cession of territory could be seen as a betrayal of their sovereignty, and Zelensky has made it clear that he would not allow such a deal to take place without exhausting all options for a better alternative. For Ukraine, the coming weeks will be a critical juncture in its history, as the decision to accept or reject Trump's proposal could determine not just the fate of the country, but also the trajectory of international relations for years to come. In Moscow, Putin's calculated support of Trump's plan has only intensified the pressure on Kyiv. The Russian president has repeatedly emphasized that he believes the plan could lead to a peaceful resolution, offering Ukraine security guarantees in exchange for territorial concessions. But it is clear that Moscow's stance on this issue is rooted in strategic calculations, and any peace plan that does not secure Russian interests will likely be rejected outright by the Kremlin. For Putin, this is about more than just ending the war. It is about securing Russia's hold on contested territories and ensuring that Ukraine is left with limited options in terms of territorial integrity and national sovereignty. For Ukraine, the path ahead is full of obstacles, and each decision made over the coming weeks will have profound consequences. The United States, which has long been one of Ukraine's strongest allies, now finds itself at odds with Kyiv's leadership on a critical issue. The fate of eastern Ukraine, the geopolitical balance in Europe, and the broader stability of the region could all hinge on how this situation unfolds. Trump's peace plan has placed Ukraine in a tough position. The United States, which has long been a key partner for Ukraine in its fight against Russian aggression, is now pushing for a solution that many in Kyiv perceive as undermining Ukraine's sovereignty. On the other hand, the pressure from Moscow, combined with the threat of further military escalation, leaves Ukraine with little room to maneuver. The situation is further complicated by the fact that this deadline falls just days before Thanksgiving in the United States, a time traditionally reserved for reflection and gratitude, but now steeped in the uncertainty of geopolitical negotiation. As Ukraine considers its options, the international community watches with bated breath. The fate of the war and potentially the future of Europe may rest on how President Zelensky responds to this bold American offer. The stakes are high and the window for decision-making is narrowing. President Trump's deadline may prove to be a decisive moment in the conflict, but for Ukraine, this is no ordinary choice. It is a decision that will shape the future of the nation, its people, and its place in the world order for years to come. For the moment, Zelensky remains firm in his resolve, but the coming days will test the strength of Ukraine's resolve and its ability to navigate the complex web of international diplomacy. As both sides prepare for the next phase of this ongoing crisis, the world watches, wondering whether peace will emerge from the negotiations or if the war will drag on even longer. As the deadline approaches, the fate of Ukraine hangs in the balance. With President Trump's ultimatum looming and pressure mounting from both Moscow and Washington, President Zelensky's decision will not only shape Ukraine's future, but could also have lasting implications for the entire region. The world watches, waiting for Ukraine's next move, as the stakes could not be higher. Will Ukraine yield to the demands of peace, or will it hold firm to its sovereignty and face the consequences? Only time will tell.